When I founded Forge Wealth Management, I created a firm that aims to put our clients' interests first. Our clients are our priority. We create customized financial plans tailored to your needs and deliver them in a clear and concise manner. We are committed to our relationship with you and want to be part of your life journey. Welcome to Forge Wealth Management. We look forward to meeting you.
And welcome back. Hi, everybody. It's Marsha O'Connor here. I am your host with Shadow Her podcast. We're so excited. Once again, another amazing female entrepreneur and a good referral from actually our dear advisory partner, Carla Trotman. And so please welcome to today's show, Yadira Enriquez. Good afternoon, Yadira.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. And
My
thank
pleasure.
you for the recommendation from Carla.
Oh, I know. She's the best. And obviously, you know, I don't know if you know a lot about shadowher.org, but it is a organization. It's a nonprofit started in 2023 where we help women entrepreneurs with their operations. It's a 6-month course going through all the basic stuff that they typically do or they don't know, and to make it a little bit easier for them so they can focus on their product and then get better operations to hopefully increase revenue. And the goal is to get them over to $1 million. So pretty exciting stuff. But you have an amazing story. I read a little bit about it, about the family, about the kids, about the dog Moose. So let's go into detail of how you got involved in doing what you're doing. And tell me more about your company.
So, a family-owned business, Enriquez Produce. We're a wholesale produce distribution company. It was founded in 1989 by my parents. I was 6 years old at the time. So you can literally, I scaled along with the company. We do mainly imports of Mexican produce, and we distribute wholesale in Illinois and 6 other Midwestern states. And all of our clients, 95% of our clients are Hispanic. So we service restaurants, grocery stores, other wholesale distributors. And we have been doing so for last month, we turned 35 years. So I remember my parents started off the company with 2 tables in an outdoor food market.
Wow.
My dad had the background of being a purchaser for produce in a Hispanic supermarket in Chicago. And he had been doing that for quite a while. And he decided to go off and venture on his own. So they started off selling on the weekends. And I remember taking the bus there and seeing my parents, you know, especially my mom. She was the go-getter at that time. My dad would just purchase the produce, go and drop it off as it came from fresh from, you know, Mexico. And I would see my mom and my aunts, you know, be servicing all the clients and have the scales there and, you know, just selling by the pound. Once they had enough cash flow, they had enough money to buy their first brick and mortar, which was about 4,700 square feet. We still own that building. More as a memory and, you know, the nostalgia, we rent it out for doctor's offices. Now, fast forward 35 years after, we are a little over 102,000 square feet of warehouse space. We have 2 warehouses in Chicago and a warehouse in Texas.
It's a lot of space.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Go from there. But let's go back to like 89. I know you were 6, but what was it like? Because having a family-owned business, like everybody plays a part, but you have to start somewhere. What did it look like? What were some of the issues? What were some that you remember at 6 years old?
So my dream was to be a truck driver because I would see all of the trailers coming up to the warehouse, and back then everything was unloaded manually. So it was a trailer a week, right? And I remember all the employees lining up and they would just pass the boxes over to each other. So that to me was amazing. I wanted to go up. I come from a family of 5. It's myself and 4 brothers.
Wow.
I have 2 older brothers. So I would see them, you know, lining up and they would be helping out, and I wanted to be there too. But of course, coming from, you know, it was, no, you're a girl, go to the office. So that was my dad's, immediate answer that was my brother's. It was always, "You're a girl, go to the office." So that's what I did. I was sad, right? And it was something that I always felt disenfranchised in that because it is very male dominated, right?
Yep.
Everybody around us was male. But I went to the office and I learned the numbers, right? My aunt was there, my dad's sister. So she showed me, hey, you know what? Count the money. I was out. So I grew up counting the money. I grew up with accounting. We were doing a lot of all of our bookkeeping was manual back then. Fast forward, when I was in eighth grade, we purchased our first computer and I was introduced to Peachtree accounting. And I
Wow.
remember being very nervous about inputting the invoices and the purchasing. But my aunt said, you know what? It's okay. If you make a mistake, it's fine. We'll fix it. So my aunt was very helpful. That she was one of my first mentors in being okay with making mistakes and knowing that there was always a solution, right? So that's how I eventually now am the CFO of the company because I went through all of the departments of AR, AP, purchasing, inventory, warehouse management, and so now I understand the numbers behind it and I understand why each person is key that we currently have as employees and how that affects our bottom line.
Oh, it's number one issue. I tell entrepreneurs all the time, always know your bottom line, know where your numbers are, really understand. And if you don't, be taught how to. Because if you don't understand that, like we're not doing this for the freedom. We're doing it more so to make sure we're making money and that we can actually put food on the table for sure. So you learned all that. You got things moving. You guys have grown significantly. I would say just in the past like 10 years, what has changed in the distribution, specifically the produce world?
So there are quite a few changes. I would say the top three would be mergers and acquisitions.
Mm,
You're seeing that across the board
yep.
with a lot of national, very strong companies coming in, even regional, and coming in and buying the smaller
Mm,
distributors, especially because you see a lot of the original founders retiring. And most likely the children of those founders are either not in the business and they're not interested in taking over, or they see the up sale of private equity coming in. They
hmm.
stay as the CEOs, but they're no longer 100% owners of the company. You see an increased competition as well globally. So a lot of the times, traditionally, when I was growing up, it was everybody came to the distributor, right? You were the middleman. And now, because of technology and because of access to information, you're able to connect directly with providers from Mexico, from Peru, from other parts of South America, from other parts of Europe. So they tend to start jumping the middleman in order to, shorten up their supply chain and have more profits that way. And then the other one I think is also comes from the consumer side,
Mm.
and they want to know where their produce is coming from, what types of people are working, what types of conditions, and also the environmental impact that everybody across the supply chain is having.
Yeah, I'm learning more about the impact. I think more and more people are asking that question and also about the sustainability and all. Do you guys do a lot with that right now as well?
So what we've done is we've changed all of our lights to LED, right? And you can imagine in having 102,000 square feet of space that we used to use a lot of energy, right? So we're like, what can we control right now? So
Yep.
we did that. And then we're also working with our vendors to change the packaging on certain
Mm,
materials
okay.
so that the crates that are coming in are recyclable.
Yeah.
There was a shift a few years ago from wooden crates to plastic because in the border, when it was crossing, you wanted to minimize any type of infectious or bacteria in the wood, right?
Right.
You needed to make sure that it was treated to minimize the impact on the produce it was carrying. So there was a huge shift to plastic. But we
Wow.
started seeing that the plastic, a lot of the plastic is not easily recyclable, reusable. Our clients were coming to us and saying, what do I do with all of these crates? I
Yeah.
don't need this anymore. So we saw that become an issue. So we started working with our vendor partners so that we can start minimizing the use of that plastic that creates issues on this side of the states. And so that we can continue working with the partners, but also know that we want to minimize the impact that we're having on, in all of the Midwest, because it's just because I don't see it doesn't mean it's somebody else isn't having an issue with it, right?
Yeah.
And so as taking care of that relationship, that also caused them to have higher increases in their waste management, right? So it was like, this is something that's important that goes along with the values of how we're impacting and the sustainability aspect.
Interesting. It's all the things that you don't think about and take for granted because we just see produce show up at a supermarket, right? And all the back ends that go along with it. Now, you are in it. You are the only daughter. You have all four brothers. And then how does it work with the family dynamics?
So to be honest, sometimes it gets a little sticky. Let's use
Mm-hmm.
the word, because you have to be very intentional with how you arrive at the office. You have to know that once I walk in there, I see my dad as my boss, and I see my brothers as co-workers. And it's really important that once you step out of there, it's the same thing. It's kind of like you shake the dust off of your feet.
Yeah.
And when I go into my dad's house, that's my dad, right? So I think it's important to have open communication,
Yeah.
because there's going to be a lot of things that you don't align with, but you need to always understand that respect is the number one thing.
Yeah.
And also know that when it's time to address an issue and when you should maybe leave it on the back burner because it comes with an emotional aspect that you don't want to bring into the conference room, or you don't want to come in a daily basis. But other than that, and then you see the positive side, and you know that somebody always has your back, right? As a mom of three, there's been a lot of times where I arrive at the office or I have an upcoming meeting with someone, and all of a sudden I get a call from school. So and so is running a fever. And I'm like, what am I going to do? So
Yep.
somebody steps in and they'll take over the meeting, and then I'm able to come back to the house, right? So there's a lot of positives, but also I know that there's been times before where all four of us, we haven't been aligned, and that's caused issues. So we've learned from that, and we've learned to, reach out and say, hey, you know what? Let's try to minimize the emotion coming into this meeting, and let's work on the facts. So working with agendas, making sure everybody has the agenda, everybody has access to data, so that we can focus on data-driven decisions versus emotional.
And that's not easy. Obviously, you've been in the CFO role going into it. And, did you go to school for accounting?
No, I did not. My mom always said, you're really great at numbers, go to school for accounting. I actually majored in international commerce,
Ah,
specializing in agricultural business because of the nature of the business. However, all throughout since high school and college, all of my electives were accounting based. So I did cost accounting, I did financial accounting. I just recently finished my MBA with a specialization in finance. So, especially like growing up and always being numbers oriented,
yeah.
uh, I was the first one to always be working with the accountant, even when I was 16 years old, right? I was looking at financial statements because my dad's first language was not English. So I was the one sitting in those meetings, speaking with the accountants, translating, asking questions, because at 16, looking at trusts and insurance products and financial statements wasn't the norm, right? But I was like, okay, so I would ask a lot of questions and take a lot of notes, and then always follow up with the accountant. He was one of my mentors.
It's so interesting because I think, people don't realize the paths that they take through their whole lives. And then, it's funny when you have a business like that, and like, you grow up with it. Will I be in it? Will I do that? I mean, is there an expectation? You have 3 kids. Is there an expectation in your family that they'll be part of the family business as well?
Not with my kids. I've been married for 18 years this November. So
Congrats.
my oldest is 16, then a 13-year-old, and then a 10-year-old. The oldest wants to go into law, either political science or history to eventually major in law. The second is more into science, so he's going into a STEM related field. The third one does look like she has that business savviness in her blood,
Oh
but
boy.
the expectation, even with us, my parents always said the best gift that I can provide you is an education.
Yep.
And the amount of time that you want to work with us, you are more than welcome to, but we don't expect you to.
Yeah.
I grew up, since that was my norm, all throughout high school, on the weekends, I would wake up with my dad at 4 a.m. because we had to open at 5, right? To be open to the restaurants and
Yeah.
everybody that needed their produce.
Hmm.
So I would wake up and I would go with him. And I would not go to the parties. And my kids are like, Mom, like, why would you not do that? And I was like, you know what? I already knew what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And to me, I was like, it might seem silly, but to me, that was a waste of time because I didn't want to be on the weekends, like, getting up late, or I already knew my routine. It was a habit. It was already ingrained in me that that's what I was going to do when I grew up. So to me, doing other things was wasting my time. However, I see my kids, and I'm like, wow, they have a really great balance because it's like high school and they'll go out with their friends. And it wasn't that I missed out on it because my parents didn't force me to. I believe that just catapulted my career, and gave me a different mindset of always working on something, which is why I have the skill set that I currently have.
Oh, that's so awesome. And we're going to talk more about that in a second. We're going to take a quick break for one of our sponsors. And again, it's Marsha O'Connor with Shadow Her Podcasting here. Our wonderful guest today is obviously Yadira Enriquez, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Ready to redefine your talent strategy? Let's make Redefine the word of the year for your success. Introducing RAS, Recruitment as a Service. Outsource your talent strategy with the O'Connor Group. Our 4-tiered approach was crafted to align with your business, whether you're launching a startup or leading a thriving corporation. Our cost-effective solutions are designed to elevate your business and enhance your people strategy, ensuring scalability and strategic growth. Redefine your recruitment strategy with RAS.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Marsha O'Connor again, your host with Shadow Her Podcast. Very excited to hear everybody today. And I got to say, I can't say I see everybody, but I know you're out there. So I'm really glad that you're listening. And I hear so many great comments about what we're hearing here. So Yadira Enriquez is in a family business. She's the current CFO. The business started in 1989. And, and now she's CFO, gotten involved. Her 3 kids are probably going to do something else out there, except for one. And, it's asking that question, what's next for you? Because it's figuring out, I always say to people, once you're in a family business, what's next for you? What's your legacy? What do you want to do? And, say, hey, this is where I want to leave it, succession planning and all. Have you thought about that yet?
Yes, we are currently in the middle of succession planning. We actually started it about 2, 3 years ago, right? Because
Great.
if you've ever gone through it, it's not something that you can do quickly, especially in a family business, right?
Yes.
Because you have to decide what roles, the transitions, who's the next CEO, who has certain skill sets to be in certain positions to take over the traditional role that my dad has, right?
Sure.
So we are finally in this year where we're going to obtain ownership, 20% ownership each of the
Wow.
children, and my dad is going to remain with 20%. With voting rights because he says, this is my company, so I want to still make sure that you guys don't, do anything that I wouldn't agree with.
Yep.
So we are in that transition. What is next for me? I'm really thinking about how I can give back to my community
Yep.
and what areas of opportunity there are for me to give back. Financial literacy is very important to me because it is the cornerstone of not only professional development, but personal as well, right?
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, being able to handle and to understand finances, it really gets you leaps and bounds of what a business can grow, how you can scale your company. So I would love to be able to share that information, which is why one of my latest projects was to launch my own consulting company. It's called Dahlia Sourcing Specialists.
It's
And
awesome.
what I do is I work with small business owners to be able to understand their finances.
Yeah.
And I offer fractional CFO services. I offer business management consulting overall in operations, in sales. And I also volunteer. I recently joined two boards. One of them is with ISCALI, which is a Latino youth leadership development organization. They are able to align ministry with financial literacy, with mentorship opportunities for Latinos in the Chicagoland area. They have recently grown into other Midwestern states, and they
Yep.
have had partnerships with the University of Notre Dame and with Boston College to be able to send students to obtain, undergraduate and professional degrees. And also with a different organization that has been in the Pilsen area, which is traditionally immigrant-based community in Chicago, which is where Enriquez Produce was founded and is still there. And so I'm on their board to be able to see how we can best serve the community as well.
Wow. So how are you doing that? Because it's hard to already have that role. It's hard to offer those kind of services. Do you have a lot of help right now in the company to help you to get those pieces done? That's a lot,
Yes, it is a lot. And even my parents come back and say, how is it that
right?
you're okay with all of this? And I
Yeah.
think that I don't put more on my shoulders or my mental well-being than I can handle
Good.
because I understand that there's a balance. For me, I found a letter that one of my college professors asked us to write when I was a freshman, and I found it a few years ago. And what he asked us was to write out what we saw ourselves, what was important in our lives, and what our goals were. And it's funny because the number one thing I put there was family. I wanted to be a mom and I wanted to be able to invest in my family.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
me, everything that I do when somebody comes to me, do you want to do this? Do you want to become a member of X? I always think of how that's going to impact what I'm doing now and in the next 6 to 8 months, right? Because if you're always saying yes to everything, you're eventually saying no to something in the future, right? So
So
it's
true.
really important for me to balance out being present with my children and my husband and being present for myself. Because if I don't fill my cup first, then I'm not okay with everything else, right? There's something that I'm going to drop. So I keep a list of all of my to-dos, of my commitments. And before I say yes, I check those and I ask myself, am I okay? Am I okay to take on this new role? Will it affect my mental well-being? Will it affect my relationship with my kids? How I'm showing up for them and for the rest of my family and the organization as well, because you don't want to drop the ball of, you know, my professional career.
It's funny. People don't realize that, but I think it's important these steps that you're taking to make that happen. You're giving yourself some room and some grace because that's really hard for female entrepreneurs to do, which is really good. What do you think? You've been doing this now for a long time. It's like you've been your whole life, actually, and you're moving in different directions and all too. But what do you say to a female entrepreneur that has been doing this for a little more than 2 years? What are those 3 words you tell them, basically, to help them keep inspired, to be inspired, to be motivated?
I think the main thing for me would be trust yourself, right? Because a lot of the times we doubt ourselves.
Yep.
Do we have what it takes?
Right.
And I've even doubted myself when I say, oh, well, someone might make the assumption that I'm the CFO because, oh, well, my dad put me there, right?
Yeah.
And I haven't earned. What if I was working corporate, or what if I was doing something else? Would I have made the gains that I have professionally outside of what I'm doing? But it took me a while because I did grapple with that a few years ago. And it kept coming back to me. I have to trust myself. I have to trust the investment that I've done in myself all of these years, right? And if people are coming to you and highlighting certain aspects of yourself, of your personality, of your skill set, and they're always saying, hey, you're really great at this, then you should listen, right? Because those are strengths that people are seeing in you that maybe you're not seeing in yourself.
Exactly. I think that's great. So I always love 2 things. One, I like to find out, do you read a hardcover book or do you do it Audible?
So I do both. Mm-hmm. The hardcover I actually do with my 10-year-old, and we are reading Harry Potter.
Great.
Because with my oldest, I never read Harry Potter with them. They were always, they would, independent readers, they would do it on their own.
Yep.
The third one, she came up and she said, do you want to read Harry Potter with me? And I was taken aback, and I was like, okay, yeah, let's do this. So we do that every night.
Great.
For my personal self, it's the Audible because it's just convenient. I loved reading ever since I was young, but I find myself also, if I get a hardcover book, I won't put it down, and then it'll be 2 a.m. and I'm still reading, and then that just messes up my day, So it's always Audible for me.
Oh, that is so awesome. And then what about, too, in regards to how do people, actually, what are you reading right now that's really pretty cool? Anything besides Harry Potter?
Yes, so I'm actually just done with The Energy Bus. I finished it yesterday, and I really enjoyed that one. And I always toggle between 2 or 3 different Audible books depending on the mood that I'm at that day, right? Or what I need to learn that day, and also amplify your influence.
It's funny. I just downloaded a new one yesterday, and I'm looking it up as we speak, but I'm a huge Adam Grant fan, and it's called Hidden Potential, and it's this new book that he wrote again, and I'm a numbers junkie and data freakazoid, and so he always gives good stats and data and pieces in it, but he just has a way of explaining things that are so cool. So I literally just started. I'm on the first chapter, but it was something that I was like, oh, I want to keep listening, but I was parking in the garage. I'm like, I got to turn it off, but it was just something like that just keeps you going, and they're the good books to read, and especially when you do it Audible, because I remember I'm a visual person too, so I can remember every chapter where I'm out on the road, and, it gets pretty funny. I'm like, yeah, I read that chapter on, I think it was exit 340. It's fun to hear all that. How do people get a hold of you? If they want to reach out to basically ask you about your consulting business and do business with you, how do they get a hold of you?
So first one is LinkedIn.
There you go.
Search up Yadira Enriquez, Yadira Enriquez, or my consulting website, www.elevatewithdalia.com.
Love it. That is so awesome. Well, first of all, Yadira, thank you so much for being a part of our show today. Guys out there, listen, shadow her land. You know who you are. You're out there. Sometimes it can be a struggle. We're all going through it. We've had ups and downs, and I know that Yadira had a lot of things to talk about, but probably didn't even go into have to, like all the different struggles that she had too, especially probably being, the only female in the family. But definitely reach out to her. That's what we're here for, is the big community to help each other be successful and to motivate each other, because it's hard. And we are here to help you out with that. So until next time, don't forget, people, because of Shadow Her, believe in you because we do. I'm Marsha O'Connor. I'm your host for the day. Until next time, keep on plugging. Take care.